Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey, everybody. Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Boy, oh boy, we almost didn't get one this morning. I don't know what was up with the computer, but it didn't take this until 5 seconds before it was time. Charlie Mullins is usually here about 30 minutes early. I'm sure Charlie was going, what in heck is going on? You know what, Full of Hope? You're lucky that I don't somehow remove you. You know, she just said, sunny afternoon here. Hello, everybody. Let me tell you about what it looks like here, Full of Hope. You're not going to believe this, people. But I just woke up to 3 inches of snow. I came downstairs and I popped a couple of pieces of toast into the toaster, and I looked out the window and I was like, there's no way I am seeing this. Everything is white. So I looked up, we have a street light that it'll go off in about 30 minutes, but it is a little off from the front kitchen. But if you stare up into the light and it is blizzarding, you will be able to see that the snow is falling, and we are having a blizzard as we speak. Catch that? We're having a blizzard as we speak. Can we get some ones for the lady Crispin and her family? If you've been on the boat for any length of time, you know that her Fiona's grandmother, who is closing in on 100, she had a very, very, very long life. That long life is going to end today. She had a stroke, and they're in the hospital with her right now, and it's just a matter of minutes at this point. And just thoughts and prayers to be with her family, because this is going to be a tough time. So I appreciate all of that. Couple of things. So yesterday, from last night's video, I got a little bit of hate mail from some people on the boat. And then I got ignored from a couple of people on the boat. And, you know, I'm not sorry about last night's video. So is it a pleasant subject? It's not. So do me a favor and list me all of the channels that are doing this for us so that we can take a break and not do any of those. Give me a long list of all of the channels that are doing what we are doing and talking about this epidemic and the way this epidemic is killing people. And then I'll back off. But until then, I'm going to continue to do it. And I'm not going to say sorry for it. And this is your boat, people. But I'm the captain. And there are a lot of people out there that need to hear those videos. And that's just the truth. There's a lot of people out there that need to hear those videos. They need to be done. And they need to be done the way that I did it. And I'm not sorry. Sorry. So on to more pleasant subject matters. Yesterday, we talked about tying the sobriety, and then there were some people who didn't like the term anchor because anchors sink things. Anchors also moor things. It keeps a boat. If you've ever been on one and you decide that you're going to take a nap you pull up near shore, you toss down an anchor about 50, 100 feet of line so that the boat will move, but it will anchor you into a spot that it will always take you to exactly there. You have nothing to worry about. Whatever illustration you like to use is fine with me. However, that list of the reasons that you want to quit, your why. We talked yesterday at length about why it's way more important to write down exactly who that why is and exactly what reason put that why on that list. And it can be, it's going to be different for everybody. There are going to be some great details about why that why is so important to you, why it's worth quitting. The genius behind the 3-step program that we do here on the Lifeboat isn't mine, right? I didn't come up with this. But let me see if I can explain to you why this system is fantastic and why I think that this system is superior to a lot of others. I've gone over in the past some of the reasons that I think some of the steps in the traditional 12-step program are issues. And I've used the illustration before about destroyed marriages. And there's one story that comes up that is an absolute fact. I met the person that it happened with, but it was a divorce caused by someone making amends. What had happened is at a party, this guy's best friend got liquored up, really liquored up. And he made a pass at the guy's wife. And the wife just sort of rebuffed this guy and got him away and said, "Hey, knock it off. Come on. What's the matter with you?" "No, of course I'm not doing this," and blah, blah, blah. She didn't feel that telling her husband was essential. She didn't want to destroy a friendship that had been going on for many years. And in the process of making that decision, she just said, I'm not going to mention it. All it's going to do is cause a fist fight. It's going to end a friendship. Years later, this gentleman decides to get sober and he decides to make amends. And he calls his best friend and he says, "Hey, I want to apologize about that night that, I tried to sleep with your wife. And, I know I was really out of line." And this guy said, "Huh? You did what?" And he said, "That time I made a pass at your wife and I was grabbing at her." And so this man went to his wife and said, "How dare you not tell me that?" Literally caused a divorce. This stupid, itty bitty, one little pass. Should she have told him? Maybe. Not really my business. I'm not smart enough to make decisions like that or pass judgments like that. But there are a lot of steps in there that are very, very self-centered. Of course, they say things like, make amends when it's not going to harm others. How in hell are you going to know when it's going to harm others? So let me tell you why I think that the Q method is a better one. First of all, it's fast. Now, are you going to spend the rest of your life working on it? Yeah, of course you are. Are you going to need to make amends? Maybe at times you're going to feel the need to do that. I did. But I'll tell you something. My making amends, I spent unbelievable amounts of time talking to Q about the things that I wanted to apologize to others for. I didn't bring it to them. I didn't have to break down every single detail of every life that I almost destroyed or all of the people. I went to them and said, "I'm sober." And it would take me months to apologize one at a time for the things that I did to you. Suffice to say that I lied to you every chance I got so that I could figure out a way. Having fun, squirrel? I said, suffice to say that I lied to you every chance that I had so that I could come up with more money to get more dope, because dope was the only thing in my life that mattered. But I didn't have to start breaking down every single detail where it was going to hurt people. Didn't need to happen. On the other side, I also wasn't going to be taking months to get to the new me, which would have been a real issue, because the genius behind this, in my opinion, is that, using me as an example, when Q came to me and said, "You're meant for more than what you're doing right now in your life," I hated myself. There's no other way to put it. I hated myself. If someone had said, you're worth it to become a better person, you need to do this for you, I'd still be sticking needles in my arms. I promise you. Because I wasn't worth it. Not in my head. In my head, I was the most reprehensible piece of crap that had ever walked the planet. So when I basically said something very similar to that, I said, you know what? You don't know the loser I am. He said, oh, no, I do. I've been watching you. That's why we're talking. I know exactly who you are. But I'll bet there are people out there that love you in spite of who and what you've turned yourself into. And I said, there are. There are people who have never turned their back on me. He said, well, let's try to figure out all of the reasons and all of the people that are worth quitting for. And I'll tell you something, people. I quit for other people. I didn't quit for me. Now, every day that I get up and I do this, I do it for me. My sobriety is absolutely for me. But it took a period of time because the me that needed to quit was not somebody that I was particularly proud of. In fact, it was somebody that I was just 100% ashamed of. So all of that got brushed aside. There was no reason to concentrate on how badly I felt about myself. Instead, I was able to concentrate on people that I thought were fantastic, people who I absolutely loved, and people who were worth quitting for. I was able to concentrate on something other than me in the beginning. And by putting down what, in my mind, were anchors, things that were absolutely worth getting sober for, people that I loved more than life, I was able to forget about me. I was able to take me out of the equation and start looking at people who I thought were perfect. And is anyone perfect? Well, no, obviously not. There's only one person that was ever perfect, in my opinion. But I'll tell you what, my daughter and my son were pretty close. My mother and my father, amazing people. What they had put up with in me. So I started that list. And as I said yesterday, I brought it back to Q and I said, here it is. Here's the reasons. And he said, what is that? I said, these are the reasons that I want to quit. These are my whys. He said, these are names. These are letters on a piece of paper. I said, right. It's what you asked me to do. He said, no. I asked you to give me reasons that you wanted to quit. And I went back and I wrote down the things that I talked about yesterday. I talked about the birth of Calhoun and the birth of my daughter. And I talked about the times that my father just should have turned his back and all of the reasons that these people to me were bigger and better than life. And when that was done, when I had taken all of the concentration off of me, I had made a list of things that were important enough to put down the needle. They were important enough to me. I cared and loved them when I didn't love me. And while I didn't love myself, I was asked to disassemble myself, to make a list, and to be brutally honest. The way he said it was genius. Not go back and tell me who you are. He said, get the best friends you've ever had, the people that know you better than anybody on this planet. Now, they're all in a room, and they know that what they're about to say, you're never going to hear. They can openly talk about you. You're never going to hear it. They don't have to deal with the repercussions. Who would they say you are? And I started to make that list. Now, keep in mind, people, I still hate myself. Well, that was the time to talk about who I was. That hate came out. It really did. It was no longer just self-loathing. You see, this self-loathing took on form. There were details about why I hated myself. Again, they weren't just words. I wrote thief. But I wrote I was the kind of thief who would come up with a story and tell whatever lie I needed to tell so that the person who I was talking to would hand me money so that I could put that money in my arm and keep this going. My dishonesty I broke it down into every single part. And I went right down that list. And it took a really long time. It took days. But it took days at a time when I hated myself. Did it make me want to use? It did. But I had spent the previous days listing the reasons that I wasn't going to do that ever again. And I remember going to Q and saying, man, you know what? I am such a piece of crap. He said, yeah, you are. You really are. Look what you've done to yourself. The person who's addicted to drugs is worthless, but that's not you. See, if that was you, all of those people on who you listed as your reasons, your whys, they wouldn't love you the way they do. Not if everything you just wrote was all there was to you. See, what you just wrote, that's the drug. What you just wrote is what the drugs have done to Tommy. And there started to be this sort of line of demarcation in my head. I started to realize that the biggest problems in my life weren't lying, stealing, being dishonest, being unreliable, being disorganized, being cruel. Those weren't the problems. They were the symptoms. The problem was tar heroin. And when I started going through this 3-step process, by the time I was done writing down everything about myself that I couldn't stand, everything about myself that I really deep down hated, I kept going back to that first page of the whys and his voice. And he had a very calming effect usually in the things that he said. He was as a matter of fact as anyone you've ever met. He did not BS. He wasn't much for it. But he didn't have to raise his voice either. He wasn't that kind of guy. But it just kept ringing back. Why do those people still love you? And the truth was that at the very base of who I was a really good person trying to come out. Have I got there? No. I haven't. But I got to the point where I love me. Flawed, damaged, addicted. I love me. Now, how did that happen? I mean, think about it. I just spent days listing what a piece of crap I was. I just spent days listing all of the reasons that I wasn't worth loving myself. So how do I get to a place where I truthfully love myself enough to try to help others? Well, when I'm at my absolute lowest, when I am at the very bottom as I have ever been, because for the first time in 30 years, 3 decades, I stripped away all the BS. One of the biggest problems, people, with the outward appearance that we try to show the world of who we are is we start buying into it. The reason that second step is so beautiful is there's no room. And if somebody helps you work through this, there's really no room. You know, because you'll write something like, well, you know, deep down, I'm probably a pretty good person. And I would have Q say, how the hell would you know? You have to be. Or all of those people that you're quitting for wouldn't love you. But how do you know what you are? When was the last time you were you? Over the course of that dissection of who I was, through that brutal honesty, I came away with the conclusion that there really were 2 Tommies. There was page 2 Tommy, the person that I hated. And then there was another Tommy that the person on page 1 still loved. The genius of this is that while I was at my absolute lowest, while I was really struggling with what heroin had done to me, he said, now, turn the page. it was so much more than turning a page. When you take that piece of paper and you flip it over, you have an opportunity to create a brand new you that day. Is it going to be a long process? It is. It is. But it's like saying to somebody, I want 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. I would like a deck that goes around the back, maybe a hot tub. There's nothing taking shape yet, but you know exactly what you want. And I started writing down who I wanted Tommy Scoville to be. Are there days I fail? Yes. A lot of them. There are days that my tongue still gets me into trouble. But there's never a day that I go to bed, page 2 Tommy. I got to design who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the kind of person that someone would send an email to that said, thank you for trying to help me get sober. That was important to me. I wanted to be the kind of person that someone could say, I'll count on that guy getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to talk to me about sobriety, whether he's feeling good or not. I wanted to be honest. Above all, that was the first thing that I put down. If you do this and you do it right, chances are the first thing you wrote about what you don't like about yourself will be the exact mirror opposite of what you write down on who you want the new you to be. I wrote liar, and then I wrote, I wanted to be honest to a fault. I wanted to be honest to a fault. And I designed who I was, and then I let somebody read it. And it was great. First of all, Q's really good at this, but we'd get through it and he'd go, you know what? Don't you want to be? And he would bring up something else and I would go, yeah, I do. One of the things I didn't write on the list, because I guess I just assumed that if I was doing all of those things correctly, that I would be a good dad. But when he said, don't you want to be a good father? It was like getting kicked in the stomach. It was a process that reminded me that I was so self-centered that as I was creating the new me, I didn't think about all of those people that I listed as my whys. And then I went back and I said, I wanted to be the kind of brother that a brother wants to have. I wanted to be the kind of brother that some brother would be proud to say, that is my younger brother. I wanted to be the kind of father that if you were in trouble and you made one phone call, I was going to be that call. You needed help, I was going to be the call. No offense to my ex-wife. I wanted to be the first phone call that my kids made if they were in trouble. The point is, I got to design that. Page 3, in many ways, became a tribute to my whys. All of those people that I listed, I wanted those people proud of me, not so that I could take some satisfaction in it, so they could take some satisfaction in it, so that someone could say, that's my brother, or someone could say, that's my father. I wanted them to get the satisfaction. It wasn't about me anymore. And it may sound crazy, people, but it happened that fast. This process of 3 steps took me about 10 days. Now, I have been working on page 3 for 8 years. One of the things that he forced me to write down on that list so many times, like it literally appeared 15 different ways, was journaling. I was going to be the kind of person who journaled. He's a genius. You know what the journaling is? It's every other step that every other program has ever come up with at your own pace. It was writing down the things that I did wrong. It was writing down what I did on Monday that was page 2 like, especially in the beginning. I mean, that's really, if you go back through my early journals, and if I wasn't such a degenerate, people, I would love to publish them. But I'm so embarrassed of the person I used to be. But if you read the early stuff, I would say, you know what? Today I acted like this, like the old me. I acted like heroin Tommy. In the beginning, it was me looking over my own shoulder all the time. It was me watching what I was doing. Was I trying to be the person on page 3, or was I backsliding to the person on page 2? Do you understand the genius behind that? That is the canary in the coal mine. You understand that? Coal mines used to fill with poisonous gas, coal. Excuse me. Coal gas will push oxygen out of the room. And what you're left with is poison. And it's poison that will drop you. As it turns out, it's not very friendly. Don't write me an email and tell me what a bad guy I am for bringing it up. But canaries can take a lot less of that than we can. So they would keep them in cages in the coal mines. And if that canary stopped singing, you were in trouble. So the term, the canary in the coal mine, has come to mean the early warning sign that things aren't going well. That was my journal. My journal was the canary in the coal mine. Because if I was spending more of my day acting like page 2 Tommy, then it was just a matter of time before I put a needle in my arm. I didn't need to be taught that. I spent 30 years that guy. It's still the canary in the coal mine. I came on here that time that I treated that woman at the pharmacy so crappy. Well, that was me. That was the me that I used to be all the time. Self-centered, unkind, didn't ever worry about somebody more than I worried about myself. That journal is my early warning sign. If I'm in relapse, the journal will tell me I'm in relapse. Fast. Right around the time I stop writing, I'll go, damn, I'm back. I'm being the jerk wagon that I've been my entire life. That's got to stop. I also, last night when the show was over, I went back through the comments as far as I could go. It doesn't always let you go to the top. But Uncle Bill lost a friend yesterday to a heroin overdose. Sadly, that overdose was probably fentanyl because there's so little real heroin left. But I'm sorry. And if you hear this, Uncle Bill, my heart goes out to you. As I said yesterday, I could count on one hand the number of days that I don't get an email that says somebody was lost. I am trying to stay focused because I squirrel viciously. For that reason, I don't always get a chance to read the comments as I'm talking. And it is probably a good thing for me because I would like to get the message across as much as possible. But I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry for your friend, and I'm sorry for his family, and I'm sorry for you. I really am. People, as crazy as this is going to sound, I was such a degenerate as a person. Laziness was one of the things that I wrote down when I was describing how my friends would describe me. I was lazy, no follow through. One of the reasons that I never got sober in any other plan, honestly, it's going to sound so stupid, but 12 steps, holy hell. Be lucky to get through one. 12 was a daunting number to me. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. I said to Q when I was really deep into this process, when page 3 was far more of who I was than page 2 was, and I was learning that I honestly could be the person that I wanted to be, I said to him, do you think maybe we ought to have a 4th step? And being Q, he went, sure, tell me what you think the 4th step ought to be. And I said, well, you know, the 12th step to NA is that having had a spiritual awakening because of the steps, we wanted to take this to other people. His response was uniquely Q. And he said, if somebody has to tell you to do that, then you probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place. I thought, well, I guess that makes sense. And he said, no, it makes a lot of sense. He said, there are people who become sponsors because it's on the list of things that they're supposed to do, and they should never be sponsors. Not everybody is destined to be a sponsor. Not everybody should take that kind of responsibility on, not because they can't be responsible, because if you do this 3 steps correctly, you'll be responsible. Unless, of course, for whatever reason, you don't list that as one of the attributes of the new you. Have you ever bought a brand new car? There's something really fantastic about buying a brand new car. You go there and you sit down with the salesperson, and that part sucks. And well, I'm going to go back and talk to my manager. He doesn't normally do this, but he's going to drop all that stuff is garbage. But when they say, "What color do you want?" Have you thought about the color interior? We have 3 different stereo packages, and you get to sit and design your car. You get to pick everything about that vehicle that's going to make it uniquely yours. Imagine doing that for yourself. At the lowest point of my life, when I just absolutely had taken myself apart and admitted everything about myself that I hated, he said, now let's design the new you. And he had a great big smile on his face. Let's design the new you. It probably wouldn't be such a great thing to have somebody doing that out of obligation. If you really have a spiritual awakening, you're going to want to help people. Now, you may not be designed to help people. Maybe the help will just be, hey, I heard about a different method. Why don't you stop by this channel? Or why don't you meet this person? There's a girl in my group who's great at this. There's a guy in my group that's great at this. I think you'll want to help people. Doesn't necessarily mean that it should be a full-time job. Doesn't necessarily mean it's something you should be spending 10 to 20 hours a week on. Maybe the help is just going to be you praying for that person. Or you just telling that person that you love them. You know what happens when you tell somebody who has absolutely nothing going in the right direction that you love them? And I don't mean when you just toss it out there. I mean when you mean it. One of the reasons that the lifeboat becomes addicting to people so quickly is because of people like Flamin' Jackson, people like Charlie, people that will say, people like M. Hunt, who will say, I love you. The people that used to tell me that they loved me when I was not lovable, they became my why. They made me believe that there was enough Tommy left to save. You understand? The step 1 is that realistic, maybe there's enough in me to save me. Not all programs are one size fit all, but there is a program out there for you. NA and AA both helped me. Drug court helped me. But of course, I know people that neither of those programs helped them. Ultra MAGA, the number of people who have been helped by NA and AA, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Drug court, they have a much smaller success rate. But the people that get through drug court really get helped. It's a tough program. At least it is here. In the state that I live in, they have a 94% dropout rate or kick-out rate. They don't drop out, they get kicked out. But less than 6% of people in the state of Nevada finish drug court. Very difficult program. Very, very difficult program. And I agree with you. It isn't one size fits all. And for some people, it's going to be one from column A and one from column B. But this made sense to me in a way that others didn't. This made sense to me in a way that others didn't. And the biggest reason for that is with most programs, the very basic tenet of all of these programs is that you need to be doing this for you. You got to do it for you. Can't do this for somebody else. You got to do this for you. I have now, not brag, just fact, I have now worked with thousands of people to try to help them get sober. I don't know that I've met one that at the height of their addiction loved themselves enough to do it for themselves. Sounds good. It does. It sounds good. And I'll tell you this, you can get sober for somebody else. You just can't stay sober for someone else. You're going to have to learn to love yourself for long-term sobriety to work. But I'll tell you this, I couldn't love the cat on page 2. I couldn't. Page 2, Tommy wasn't lovable. There was nothing on that page that made me lovable, not to myself. Very often, the people who love us remember what we were prior to becoming a drug addict. At 46 years old, sitting in a prison cell with a Sony radio with 1 battery and 2 bags of Folgers coffee to my name, I didn't remember who I used to be. I didn't remember a day when I didn't need heroin. I mean, if I sat back and thought about it, I could remember running downstairs for Christmas. I could remember hanging out with my family before doing drugs, but I didn't remember any of adulthood that I wasn't a degenerate drug addict. Now, I'm not saying that if you're listening to me, you're a degenerate drug addict. You understand? I'm saying I was a degenerate drug addict. I don't pass those judgments on other people, but I know damn well what I was. And for me, nothing was more important. My entire life revolved around doing dope. That's it. Super tough in San Bernardino County. I almost did fail drug court. I got sanctioned twice for relapsing, but I eventually got it. Good for you, MAGA. That's amazing to me, man. It really is. And I'm not blowing smoke. I think that is one of the most impressive things in the world to me. I made it a week and a half. I got sanctioned and sent to jail. I got out. I failed another drug test. They sent me to jail. And when I got out of jail the second time, the cop that was doing my paperwork said, "You got to go to drug court today at 10 o'clock. I said, okay. He goes, "They're going to send you to prison when you go there." I said, huh? He said, "It's a 2-strike program. You got your second strike." I said, "Then why are they letting me out? Why don't they just send me to prison?" And he said, "Because they have to start the revocation process there." So I would go there, get my revocation, then get sent. So I just said, "Pew!" I got in the wind. I disappeared. And I don't know, I'll never know. I guess if I had gone there and dropped on my face and begged, who knows? Maybe he would have let something happen, but I didn't. If I would not have had other people I loved to start doing it for, I couldn't have ever thought of doing anything for myself. Tommy Bird, that's why this system works for people like you and I. And he's right. It's not a one size fits all. I am of the firm belief that there are many, many of us who do not love ourselves enough to start the sobriety process for ourselves. Doesn't mean that we can't be cured. And I said, cured. Doesn't mean you can't be cured. But very much like the 12 steps, I didn't try to rewrite this. The 12 steps work beautifully for people who follow the 12 steps. One of the other things that I loved about this is, and this is funny as hell. Every time I say this to people, I get a laugh. I loved that I didn't have to go to meetings all the time. I loved that this was a program I could do without meetings. Now I do 14 hours minimum of meetings a week. Right? Pretty damn funny. Yesterday, I had to go meet with my attorney again, for this getting off paper stuff. By the way, somebody loved me enough to help me with that attorney. Anyway, I had to go meet with that attorney again yesterday. And I'm not blowing smoke up my own backside, but I'm just telling you the truth. He said, it's a she, but she has a assistant who was doing most of the paperwork. And he said, well, we need to write down anything that you're doing that's above and beyond the call, right? You passed all your drug tests. You went to all of the programs you were supposed to go to. You paid all the fines. What above and beyond that should make a judge consider you for early termination? And I said, well, let me tell you about the lifeboat. Now, when I got to the end of explaining what we do, and he said, can you pull that up on your phone? I said, sure. And I handed it to him. And he looked at it and he read a few comments and everything else. And he said, I've never written up one like this. He said, normally the judge would like to hear that you still go to maybe a meeting a week. Doing 2 hours a day where you host them? He said, I've never done one of these before. I'd be really surprised if this gets turned down. The difference between page 2 Tommy and page 3 Tommy is I didn't do any of this to get off of probation early. Page 2 Tommy didn't do anything without an ulterior motive. If I was doing something, I was looking to get something out of it. Monetary, whatever. I do this because for me, I had a spiritual awakening. And I want to bring the program to other people because somebody was kind enough to bring it to me. A white boy. I don't know if you can imagine what a big deal that is. Because we live in a world, I don't care what they tell you out there. We live in a world where I honestly believe that most of us are colorblind. I honestly believe that most of us don't buy in any of that crap. They're people like a name I'm not supposed to say on here, but you know who. He looks like Senator Palpatine, that old billionaire that likes to destroy countries so that he can bet against their currency. That's how he made all of his money. Destabilizing countries so that he can bet against their currency. Well, he wants us to believe we all hate each other. I don't believe that that's the truth. Hard to believe. Full of hope, I love you. I really do. I was telling somebody that last night. Heather Joy literally has her hands full. She is Mother Heather Joy today. She is the proud mother of tons and tons and tons of chicks. I heard a few of them yesterday, making really cute sounds. M. Hunt, you have such a beautiful way with words sometimes. And he really is an absolute reprehensible piece of crap. He bankrolled the organization that has caused so much, 20 organizations, but so much of the trouble in this country. I won't go off on that. I'll get over onto the Lifeboat Raw and we'll talk about Palpatine. I'll do a whole show on him because he is just awful. Live your life for others long enough, be they family, friends, or strangers, and you will never be alone. Scotch Sonnet, I love you, brother. I really do. It's a really beautiful thing to say. And there is something to that. Yeah, the lifeboat raw. I'm a fan. You know what, people? I lived in Texas. Lived in Texas for about 5 years. Had a lot of fun. If it was not for Texas, there would be no Spanx Calhoun. In fact, there would be no Cedar. There, both of my children came from their mother was a woman that I met in Texas. She was the lifeguard at the marina that I used to keep my sailboat at. And I loved Texas. I really did. I loved the people down there. I loved everything about it. Do you realize, people, that I have to shovel my driveway? Ah! Where are we? It is, let's see. Is today the 17th or the 16th? Where are we at? It's the 18th. That can't be right. Just goes to show you how bad my eyes have become. See, there's a little window in there, but I can't see it. I'm just. It is the 18th. April 18th. And we're having a blizzard. Boy, oh boy. I told this story before, but the year that I left, thank you, Ultramaga. The year that I left Vermont, the month of December did not see the temperature get above zero. And that whole month, I just cursed. I'm going to get out of this place. I swear to you, I'm moving. I'm going to go buy a sailboat. Right? And I did. Trish Killian, very kind. I don't think you missed. If you missed anybody, Trish says hello. I would not stand for truth. I would not be surprised if there was not a little high altitude radiation going on. But any way you shake it, it is absolutely snowing. Scott Sonnet says, all I need is a good sneeze with the size of my nose. I should be able to blow out the the driveway in one good snuff. I'll tell you what, it used to go the other way. I could have gone out there and just snorted it. Miss V, I hope you feel better, hon. I'm sorry to hear that. Really, I am. Maybe some prayers for V. She's not feeling well. Charlie Murphy says, hit that like button, please. People, do me a favor. There's about 23 of you here right now. When you leave here, just stop and hit the thumbs up button. If I have not proven that I really don't care about the big red button, I got yelled at for this. I lost a follower for this that I cared deeply about, who said that I don't care about anybody, that I risked the entire lifeboat by beating on the big red button. You can only bite your lip for so long, people. I'm sorry that if it seems like I antagonize YouTube, but you can only bite your lip for so long. It really gets to you. Trish Killian, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This boat loves you. Hey, Zen Wen. I didn't see you this morning. Good to see you. It's good to be able to laugh at yourself, Tommy. For instance, I got a forehead. You got a forehead. You think that's funny? I got a six head, my brother. You got a forehead that's the size of my driveway. Well, here's the thing. I've been shaving my head now for so long, but I used to shave my head and there was hair on it. Now I've got sort of I used to have like the peninsula, right? Now the peninsula is so thin that it's more like a cul-de-sac. So if I let this come in, I look remarkably like Dr. Phil. So for that reason, obviously, I don't let it go in because it's tough enough to do this thing twice a day. But if I came on and said, well, the thing of it is, The problem is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't teach him algebra. But, I think no one would really take me seriously. I am being threatened with privacy strikes on a video. So I back my channel up to Rumble. That's what I like to hear. Well done, Lemmy. M. Hunt says, I'm too sexy for my hair. I don't know if you've seen M. Hunt's hair, but he could lend me half of it, and he'd still be in pretty good shape. He is, it is, JT. It's a cul-de-sac. It is, yeah. Sadly, that is how it's starting to come in. We got the same haircut, Tommy. All right, then. One more thing I like about you, Ultra MAGA. One more thing I like about you. Oh, I wanted to say this. I watched a show last night, and it's not the first time that I've watched it. It is a gentleman who talks an awful lot about Suboxone versus Sublocade, and he's good. He's really a good host. I'm not going to remember the name of this show today in the morning, but tonight I will tell you the name of the show. Anybody that is trying to get off of opiates, he's done a ton of research on Suboxone versus Sublocade and the differences between the two. And I would highly recommend going over and checking the guy out. I would like to, if at all possible, do an interview with him, but we'll see what happens. Seventh son, I've got all but the fat part down. He says he's a buff, bald, ugly, fat fellow. Well, I'm an ugly fellow, but I am no longer fat. You know what, Zen? I got your back. People, Zenwen has just said hello to each and every one of you. A little early in the morning. Sometimes it's hard to see all the names. I get that. I get that. Oh, you know what? Also, really good news. I was there's a woman who comes to every single one of my watch shows, and she had a family heirloom that she was trying to restore, and the watch is so damn old that to try to find parts for it is virtually impossible. And I have been trying to hunt down what's called a roller bearing for this particular watch, but we're talking about a roller bearing made in 1840. So it's not like you just run over to the local watch shop and say, I need a roller bearing for an 1842, Elgin Chief. It doesn't happen. It's almost impossible. So yesterday I bought 100 antique watch movements all at once, which was painful. But I got home and I'm going through the 100 and I went, ugh, and I picked one up. And not only do I have a roller bearing, I have a fully functioning watch movement from the exact same year with the exact same dial, right? The face. They're identical. So while talking to Lady Crispin yesterday, while she was waiting for her great grandmother to pass, I was able to just swap one out for the other, and tick, 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 tick. The beating heart jumped to life. And man, yeah, that's how I felt, M. Hunt. I couldn't believe it. I should have taken a picture because I had an entire closet floor covered in watch movements. And I'm not exaggerating. An entire walk-in closet. There must have been maybe 180 watch movements, no cases, just movements on the floor. And out of those 180, one matched. It matched in size. It matched in shape. I said, damn, it's the same color. I ran the serial numbers, and the replacement movement that's going in had to have been made within 2 months of the one that I'm replacing, which is just, if you think about it, there was no electricity when they were making these, right? They were making these in workshops by candlelight. There was no electricity. And
These puppies were made within 60 days of each other in the exact same place. They went all over the world, did whatever they did, and now they have come back. I love antiques. I really do. I love history. And someone I know on the boat should be getting a watch any day. Somebody should be getting a watch any day. I'm sure that it just needs to clear customs. A watch and maybe another gift or two. I also sent Squirrel. I didn't really send Squirrel. In fact, she just looked up when I said that. Sometimes when Squirrel's in the basket, she gives me this really angry look where she sits like this and turns her back to me. And if I turn the basket so that it faces me, she turns around so that I just get the backside. So Squirrel's not happy with me this morning. I'm not exactly sure what I did. Hey, yeah, not happy with me at all. But I'm going to go shovel my driveway, unless, of course, my beak can blow that baby clean. I'll give it a try. I will give it a try. All right. Scoob, I think that's a beautiful thing to say. She says it's not just looks that makes beauty, but personality. I am of the firm belief, I've done, I think, probably a dozen shows on this, that there's a really big difference between attractive and beautiful. I married an attractive woman who was one of the ugliest people you've ever met in your life. Super attractive, though. All right, people. You know what this is? Can I get a yawn out of you? Come on. No? Nothing? That is a cat in a basket. She's giving the air a good sniff. What do you say, Squirrel? Yeah. Yeah, you're a good kitty. She really is a good kitty, too. All right, peeps. I'm going to go shovel the driveway. Sorry. I'm going to go shovel the driveway. Okay, we got to start again. Rick Smith just got here. All right, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you were on the lifeboat. So, if you caught yesterday's show, no, I'm just kidding. Rick, you're just going to have to start at the beginning and watch it. If not, at least do catch that thumbs up button on the way out, huh? And yeah, that's about all I got to say. About 11 hours from now, I shall return. All right? God bless each and every one of you. Well, most of you. Have a great day, peeps.